To another episode. With you, as always, me, Ben. Today, I'm joined by Austin and Matt, the
What's up,
host
guys?
of the host of Tone Alert, a podcast that kind of dives in. I'll give my own summary. I kind of see you guys diving into the first responder world, talking to everyone, get their kind of own story and what's going on. Would you guys kind of agree with that, or would you
Yeah,
describe it?
pretty accurate. I mean, a small summary. That's where we're at.
Yeah, it mainly started one night we were just kind of bullshitting after work and telling stories, laughing, reminiscing about the cool stuff, the bad stuff, and then it just was like somebody mentioned like, "Man, this would make a fun podcast. Like I think people would like this." And then like it kind of got quiet and then we were like, "Yeah, we should do that. Like why not?" And then Austin really headed up the idea and he was like, "Look, I've already made a logo. I've already had this idea. Like, are you in?" And I was like, "I'm in. Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
What else are we going to do?" Yeah. We got 3
Hell
days
yeah.
off, might as well, right?
Uh, it's good to just dive in like that. I think too. Like a lot of people have their ideas and stuff. They want to like tiptoe around it, but I I think you guys can just attest to it as I can. Like the only way to figure this type of business out is just dive in, just start doing it. And
Yeah,
you
you
guys
just
kind of
have to do it. Like if you have the idea, like, oh, I want to start a podcast, I want to do this business, I want to do this. Just do it. Even if you don't have 100% your ducks in a row when it comes to some of this technology stuff, just do it. Like our very first episode, it's so hard to
It's
watch.
cringy
I
now,
mean, we
yeah.
still suck, but we suck less. So we could, I was like, oh, cool. There's a progression going on. So just do it. You're going to learn along the way. You're going to fail along the way. You're going to want to freaking,
Jump off a
jump
building,
off a
yeah,
building along the
yeah.
way. But hey,
that's right.
it's
That's
worth it.
yes. That is like extremely accurate of how it goes down because there's so many ups and downs. Do before we dive into the whole podcast realm behind baseball, tell me about yourselves. Austin, if we can start with you a little bit. Tell me about like where you're from, a little bit about your background and what's going on there.
Yeah. So I pretty much grew up in the Western United States. I was born in California. Um, hint, hint, I don't live there now.
Yeah.
Lived there, I don't know, till I was, shoot, I don't remember, till like middle school or something. But my dad, he was a California Highway Patrol officer for 32 years. So we lived in a resident post for CHP officers, basically until I was 12, 13, kind of out in the middle of nowhere on a main highway, because it was so far away from just any city or society and stuff. They had to have highway patrol officers out there covering in that area, and it's a very busy highway, very active. Um,
Is
so
sorry to interrupt
no, you're good. Go ahead.
the you said resident post. Is that like barracks kind of for like highway patrol or how's that work?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's a small little, it's like a compound,
Oh,
gated
okay.
compound with just like the smallest neighborhood you've ever seen in the middle of nowhere with both CHP officers and their families, and then Caltrans is like the California transportation people, all in this compound together, and that's where they live. And then
Hmm.
so they had those resident, and there's 3 to 4 main highway patrol officers that live there, and they also get help from the closest major city if they need it, or during like graveyard hours or something major happens, they'll get help from them. But for the most part, it's just them covering that area. And so yeah, I lived there for, like I said, till I was 12, 13. My backyard was just a big mountain, middle of nowhere, and um, it's kind of how I was raised: hunting, fishing, camping, all that kinds of stuff. And uh, I appreciate it now. I remember as a kid, because we still had TV and stuff, watching kids and other people grow up in the city, the big city, and thinking, I want to be part of that. I want to go out and do those things and stuff. And now that I'm the ripe old age of 33, man, that really, like, growing up that way, I'm still that way now. I'm like, I can't wait to just disappear from everybody. It's gonna be great. On the weekends, I like to do the outdoorsy stuff, kind of go out into the mountains and just disappear, be with just me or, my brother or something like that. And so I'm really proud. I'm really glad and of where I came from and how I grew up. But when I turned 12, 13, is what it was, we kind of moved to a smaller town elsewhere, and it was a little bit more of a populated place, still considered a very small town. And from there, I went into graduated high school, went into actually served a mission for my church. I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ Latter Day Saints. Went to Brazil, served a mission there. Loved it. It's a great place. Got out and um, went into the Air Force immediately. Did 6 years there. Stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington, working as a mechanic on C-17s, and I loved it. I loved that job. I loved the unit I was with and the people I met, and still have those friendships. And um, didn't want to be a mechanic when I got out. I never wanted to touch a plane again in my life unless I was flying on it.
He's
I
good at
always
car.
hear. I was also at JBLM, and
Oh yeah,
I
nice.
yeah. What years were you there?
I was there from 2012 to 2018.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was there from 15 to 18. So
Oh, nice, dude.
Small world,
Nice.
man. That's
I went to
crazy.
your guys' DFAG all the time. Yeah, it was great.
Honestly,
The
JBLM's probably the only base where the Army side was significantly better than the Air Force side in every
No,
way.
really?
Gyms,
Wow.
the gyms, just the amenities
what?
there, 100%.
What? The gy-
100%.
the gyms. You guys had a better golf course. You had a better DFAC. You guys had a better. It looked cleaner over on your side.
Maybe, but amenity wise, you guys had it going on over there.
Yes, we did have a lot more like because you guys just had those little tiny. You had like a little shopette and stuff, but there really wasn't a lot on the base actually for you guys. Yeah, that's true.
No, and your guys' PX was way better. I mean, just obviously you guys have the big hospital there, all that stuff. So
I
I like
lived behind
yeah,
the you know where the airfield was? I lived right behind there, and it's the
the
ghetto
Army
over there in
airfield.
Lakewood. Yeah, no, the the your guys' airfield. So
Oh,
like
like off base.
yeah, so
Gotcha.
just for a brief period, and is ghetto as hell over there, but the
Super ghetto,
DFAC,
dude.
yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, there was always like license
Oh,
sirens, police pursuits, all kinds of stuff happening outside those gates all
it's
the
the
time.
most filmed place on Cops.
Yeah,
It's
that's where Cops
it,
was born,
Really?
pretty much.
mhm,
Yeah,
Oh, the more you know.
yeah, it was a
yeah.
great place.
The more
I
you
lived in
know.
I actually lived in. Do you know where Stillicum is? That's where I lived.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the first bar I ever went to. There, it was great.
Mm.
Uh,
That bar. Yeah.
it's yeah. No, it's cool. I had a few questions.
Go
What
ahead.
made you pick Air Force? Like that, because your dad's obviously Highway Patrol. There's a leniency towards public service, I guess, like
Yeah.
subconsciously. But Air Force is a different breed, you know.
Yeah, my grandpa, my dad's dad, he was a pilot in the Air Force. He got out as a captain, I believed. And I, I never wanted to go the officer route, but just because I love my grandpa so much, and he's passed away since. I think passed away back 2002, I think. I just kind of wanted to follow that way. That's kind of the only reason. Nothing really great or grand, but that's why I went to the Air Force. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I joined law enforcement obviously because my dad, probably one of my biggest idols in life, and somebody I look up to mostly. And just hearing all of his cool, crazy stories and the camaraderie he had with the guys he worked with, I knew that's something I wanted to eventually do.
Yeah, it always leans on you. You know, your dad, or if you were close with a parent, that job they have leans into you a little bit. What about your time in? Obviously, you said you don't want to work on planes no more, but how would you rate it? Did you have, was it ups and downs?
Looking back on it, I really I did enjoy it. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. Especially the people I met, the uh the things I've learned in the Air Force. I know I never wanted to be a mechanic again on an airplane, just for I don't know reasons. Um, but it did teach me a lot. I was already somewhat mechanically inclined, just naturally, just because of how I was raised. But um, learning the stuff I learned in the Air Force with that job made it even that much better, and it's stuff I use to this day. I mean, I if anybody's seen my truck, it's Toyota Tacoma. That's really just off road built for hunting, camping, fishing, just getting out into the middle of nowhere. And I pretty much built that whole thing myself, and stuff like that. Um, and then just overall, just learning, just just getting life experiences. I needed that at my young age, you know, when I went into the Air Force, and when I got out, it really did mature me in a good way. Um, so I to me, going to the military is a 10 out of 10 for anybody. I highly recommend it. There's so much benefit behind it. It's there's a bunch of bull crap no matter where you go. I mean, military or if you work at freaking, I don't know, Chick-fil-A, you're gonna have some bad things to say about whatever. I saw a meme and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's exactly how I felt. It's like going to the military is like having a puppy. At first, you know, it pees, it poops everywhere. It's really frustrating. It does, you know, as it starts to grow, um, you know, you start to love it a little more. And then, you know, you have all these experiences with it, but once it's gone, all the bad stuff you forget about and you only remember the good times, and that's it. And the good times is what really did it for me. I learned a lot from it. I made some great friends, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. What met my wife, because my wife, we have 3 great kids, and so no regrets here.
Yeah. No, that's it's and you know what? That's a better message than I hear from most military people. So that's I'm glad you found the positiveness out of it because a lot of people don't. So that's good.
Yeah, no, and I totally understand. I completely understand. There's no judgment here for those people who don't have a good experience there, and I get it, totally get it.
Yeah. Matt, and then obviously Austin, I know you kind of found that trajectory towards law enforcement. I want to jump over to Matt for a little bit. Um, Tell me about your life. Where are you from, and what brought you directly to law enforcement and stuff?
So I was similar to Austin, born in California. I don't really remember much of it though. We moved away when I was really young. Lived in Texas for a little bit and then moved to where I am now. So from all I can remember is just where we kind of live now. But growing up, the one thing that really stood out to me was when I was like probably 6 or 7, the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And I remember watching that on TV and just being like, not really able to comprehend what happened, but like knowing it was bad, right? Because like my dad was upset, my mom was crying, like it was just bad. So that kind of I think was the catalyst that propelled me into a career of service, if you want to call it. Because like I asked my parents, I was like, why are people running towards that? Like shouldn't people be running away? And my dad basically told me like those people are there to help, and they are risking their selves so that they can try to help another person. And I just thought that was the coolest thing as a kid. Like, people do that. Like that's wild. So growing up, that kind of stuck with me. And then as I became older, uh, started into like the service industry, right? Like I was waiting tables at a pretty cushy restaurant, making pretty good money for a 21-year-old, right? Like,
Big ballin'.
dude, probably making pretty good money for a 30-year-old. So
Oh,
I did that for a while. And then we had a relatively critical incident that happened where I live where a bunch of people got killed. And I just remember being like wanting to go help, but like, you can't inject more just regular civilians into the difficult parts because then you can just create more victims. So I remember sitting there just like feeling like a total coward, like looking out, there's cops and firefighters and EMS and everybody running out there to help people. And I'm stuck in a hallway at my job with my, entire, staff there and the managers and everybody just like feeling absolutely useless and absolutely like a coward. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. So it was the day after that I applied for the police department and took about a year for me to get into it. And I've been doing it for the past almost 7 years now and wouldn't want to be doing anything else. This is ultimately what I think I was put on this earth to do.
Best job I ever had.
Can't complain about it. Yeah.
damn. That's good. That's again, a lot of other people have um, pretty bad things to say about law enforcement. They all they want to do is talk the bad side of it, and I'm glad you
Yeah.
guys are actually seeing the good side of things. Like there's just positive energy coming, and that's hard to find nowadays. Do you, Matt? Like, did you any of your family do any of that kind of stuff, or was it just you just kind of had that calling?
No, I'm first generation law enforcement. My dad's side of the family came over from Europe, first or second generation there. So, and then, my mom's side of the family, we were like descendants from Canada came over, but like nobody had a history, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, nobody in my family had a history of any like military service or law enforcement, maybe like a stint in the army here and there, but, nothing, nothing that I would consider notable, like because we never really talk about it. But I just think it just, my mom always tells the story like growing up, she tried to keep me away from guns, knives, and bombs. And then she's like, and when you grow up, what do? You have a job where you carry a gun every single day. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, I guess I can't really prevent you from doing that. So I think it was just a calling for me. I think it honestly formulated when I was young and just watching, the towers on 9/11, and then becoming an adult and then having not a similar situation to that extent, but like a situation that was where I felt like I could do something more. And I wanted to then, become a part of something bigger than just myself. I mean, joining the police department, I took a pretty decent pay cut. I was making good money doing what I was doing. And at the end of the day, it just was like, there's always going to be money. Money is going to come and go. But, you know, people get too comfortable in their little minutia they do every day. And think it was time at that point for me to get a little uncomfortable. So
Good. Yeah. And it's I think people get stuck in ruts where they work for the purpose of working, or they say the money's there and stuff like you're talking about. But, purpose is what, especially for men, I think, need purpose. Like, purpose is what gets you going in the morning, what gets you through a day, what makes you like work for your kids and stuff. Like, purpose is all about it. And with public service jobs, it's there. Some days not so much, but
yeah.
a lot of days it is. What how long have you guys been serving?
Well, Austin obviously had a stint in the Air Force before, but we were actually in the
Right.
same academy, and we are coming up on our 7th year this summer. Is
Yep.
our 7-year commission date. So we've been doing that for. It doesn't feel like it's been 7 years, does it?
No, it, dude, it,
Flies by.
I still remember the academy almost vividly.
Yeah, it feels like it was like last year, but we've been doing it almost 7 years now, and yeah, I love it. So
Austin, would you equate it like time flying by like that, like as like your military time? Like the days are long, but the weeks are short.
Oh, 100%. I remember, man, just I don't know what you call it, getting out of the military, but going through that process and thinking, man, that was it. PCSing. That PCSing? I thought that was anyway.
Yeah,
it's not
ATSing, same
PMSing,
thing. It's
right?
fine. Yeah, PMSing. That's no,
PMSing.
that's
That's
when you're in
different.
the army. Yeah,
That's when you're in
That's
the
why you're
army.
in. But yeah, I just remember thinking like, man, that 6 years went by so fast. And then just remember thinking about all the times I had and, thinking about certain days. Like you said, certain days would just drag and drag, the work, drag, TDYs dragged, all this stuff we did just drag. Felt like days just took forever. But in the grand scheme of things, like, man, that went by so fast. And I do, there's a lot to say. Got the memes about the Air Force and stuff, and rightfully so. Trust me, rightfully so. But looking back on it, I I get a little bit Air Force sick, like homesick, but for the Air Force. Just the thinking about when I recruited and was at the recruiter's office, going into MEPS, going into basic training, meeting all my friends at basic training, going through tech school, all of that. It was, man, it was just some of the best time of my life. And yeah, anyway, it flew by real fast, real fast.
yeah. What So I'm not too spun up on, you know, police jobs and stuff. I know usually when you start, I guess you'd be called like a street cop or whatever. Is
Yep,
that kind of
patrol.
how you guys, yeah, patrol, is that how you guys started? And I get, Matt, I'll jump back to you. Did you start doing that? And then in your time in this 7 years, have you been on any other like special types or anything like that?
Yeah, so it's funny. I tell people like when I joined the police department, I never wanted to be a beat cop, right? Like that was my thing. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Like I want to be an investigator. I want to like find the real bad guys. Like I don't want to be doing traffic tickets and, getting cats out of trees, right? But going through the academy, going into patrol work, honestly fell in love with it. Like I think patrol work is some of the most noble and some of the most underappreciated work in a police department, but it's one of the most fun experiences you will ever have. Like, I mean, I'm happy that I've been a street cop for going on 7 years now, right? Like, Austin and I actually recently got set up to it's not like a detective spot, but it's like a hybrid, right? You're like half patrol work, half detective. You do more investigative stuff. You're not handling calls for service so much. But I
Street
think
crimes unit, I
I
guess.
think that our time on the streets has really served us well because it gives you uh that knowledge, that life experience of like, okay, if you can handle a basic traffic stop, if you can handle a basic domestic, if you can handle a foot pursuit or a crazy critical scene like a shooting or a stabbing, then you can take those experiences and bring them over to a more investigative mindset where you have more time to look at things more than just a face value. And yeah, I mean, eventually I'd like to become a detective of some kind, probably move up, promote to sergeant, something maybe higher. I don't know. I got 20, what, 3 more years in this gig.
Long time.
Yeah, so we're very proud to be street cops, and I think that that mentality needs to come back to a lot of people because so many people have a negative outlook on patrol work.
Yeah.
When it's fun, you get to you're the front line on basically anything because if patrol's not there, detectives don't get cases, you don't get people going out getting your bad guys on your warrants, and you're the frontline defense of basically chaos and order.
That's where all the action's at.
Oh yeah, I mean some of the experiences we've had in this job just on the patrol beat, like Austin said, are some of the most fun experiences of our lives. Maybe not in the moment, but looking back, it's like, man, that happened. Like, who gets
Yeah.
to say they get to do half the things we do?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it, from what I can tell, and the stuff listening to other people and your guys' show and other people's shows, and it might be, maybe you're just going to domestic disturbance and it's a drunk guy and you got to deal with that. But then maybe you're running down a dope dealer. Maybe you're doing whatever, But it's such a smorgasbord, for a better
Oh yeah,
term, of
oh yeah.
like everything, the good and the bad, and that sounds sick. Austin, you stayed the same route. You both have done that kind of stuff. W- you you found that you love this job. Do you plan on staying with it? Like, are you wanting to stay that trajectory, or?
For me, so far, yeah. I like Matt wanted to get out of patrol early on, early in his career. Me, I love patrol. No matter what I do, as a cop in my department, no matter what position I end up going to, patrol, my heart and soul will always be in patrol, and I will always love it there. And for all I know, I might go back. You know, um, it's just where I had so much fun just helping people, but helping them in the way of putting bad guys in jail. I do not like when because all the 99% of the time these bad guys are preying on weak, vulnerable people who can't defend themselves, and I can't stand that. And to catch a bad guy like that, to go out there and actively try to disrupt their OODA loop or catch them in the act or catch them before the act, and trying to do that in um, a lawful and following policy, it's an art form. It really is. It's something that, I mean, your FTOs can train you and teach you as much as they can, but in the end, you have to go out there and figure it out. And once you've got it figured out, it's the best. To me, it's one of the best positions in the department, and I like it so much. And like as Matt said, we're going into a kind of a little bit more specialized patrol type unit. But yeah, I don't really see myself doing anything else. I love just the I know people love and hate this word, the tactical side of things. I love it. And
I heard all
um,
about that on the Counterculture Live.
I know
Yeah.
I don't know why that's such a bad word. It's no, I mean,
And
freaking
I
no matter
should.
what you do, there's tactics behind everything you do.
Yeah.
Tactical
Yes.
isn't just a military police word. Okay, there
No.
people need to chill out. So yeah,
No.
I'm probably gonna do this job till at least 50 years old. Maybe at 50, I'm like, I'm done. I'm gonna go disappear in the mountains now. See you guys later.
Gonna go make my compound.
Yeah.
That's right. Dig in,
Heck
Matt.
yeah.
Where do you see yourself the same way? Like, you're feeling it now, and you would roll with it.
Uh, no, I still want to be an investigator. I mean, that's ultimately what I joined this job to do was to, become some form of a detective or an investigator. But I think that, like I said earlier, the patrol time that I've done has really cemented like my passion for going, I'd say, above and beyond, right? Like, I would have never found the route that I want to go, which is basically investigating crimes against children if I didn't have that time in patrol. And, you know, it's a very dark world where there are people that actively prey on children. And in my opinion, and I know it's different for everybody, but my opinion, that's the worst crime you can ever do. I mean,
100%.
you kill someone, they're dead, they don't suffer anymore, they're dead, right? But you hurt a child, and that child has to then grow up, go through teenage, adolescence, become a young adult, become an adult, and they're still dealing with the trauma that this person has placed them in.
Yep.
And I think that there's nothing more heinous and nothing more disgusting in this world than somebody who actively gets gratification off of hurting children. And I took a call very early in my career where basically we got a set of parents who were doing some despicable things that I can't even get into to their 4-year-old daughter. And I had never felt more satisfaction than when we put them in custody and I went to the court case and they got 35 to life.
Hopefully,
So
life.
Good.
hopefully longer, hopefully
Good.
longer. But
Yep.
I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I was called to do in this department. It's going to take me some time to get there, but that's ultimately I know what I want to do. And then I have my fun doing that. And then when that stops being fun, promote, and then hopefully use the skills that I've learned to then teach that next generation on, hey, this is how you do good cop work. So
Yeah, I think that's the one of the fun parts of being these type of jobs where you start, you don't know shit, you learn from others, and then you get to start teaching people, and then you start applying stuff you learned from all these mentors you had and little stuff. That is like that is my favorite part of like military obviously, but given that those helpful tips and tricks and hey, you should really do it this way. This is gonna help you. I love that aspect. What Matt, I wanted to ask. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I know you had a serious incident while you were on patrol. I didn't know if
yeah,
you wanted to talk
I
about
did.
that a little bit.
You did?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
He likes to give me crap for it because we talk about it so often. But
Uh,
no, I don't mind telling the story. I've kind of took some time to get to the point where I did, but basically, I was on a call where I had to end up wrestling some guy to the ground, and while we were fighting, he managed to fire off a few rounds of my gun in my holster, and then we ended up fighting over the gun for what I tell people felt like an hour, but actually ended up being like 30 to 45 seconds. And in the course of that fight, I ended up getting shot. So uh, you know, that whole incident really kind of showed how like things can go from 0 to 100 because it just started off as some guy running around on the highway.
We get that a lot.
Yeah, and that happens quite a bit. We have a fairly large homeless population where we work, so it's not something crazy that they would be walking on the highway trying to get to an underpass or something. But then, that turns into a foot pursuit, and then that turns into, oh, he's trying to carjack people. And then that turns into like, me fighting with this guy, and then all of a sudden hearing boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, that's my gun. That's not good. And then feeling that bullet going into my leg, I was like, oh, this really isn't good. Like I'm fighting for my life right now. And everything ended up working out. We ended up getting the guy in custody, but it took me about a year to get to the point where I was like, I can talk about this without going back to that place, I like to say. I mean, some days
yeah.
are better than others, but I tell people the physical wound on my leg is less traumatic than the stuff that's going on up here. And this took a lot longer to heal than this. I'm still working on this. So
What that, first of all, thank you for that sacrifice. I know that, but that truly was a sacrifice in the line of duty. Austin, I wanted a perspective because military, when we see a combat patch on a shoulder, we see a combat action badge, so people have been in contact with the enemy. A lot of people judge that at first glance with a higher deem of respect, or they think that makes them a better soldier. When with Matt in that and I'm not talking about just Matt, I'm talking about in general. Is that there a similar type of thinking with that in the police department?
Yeah, I would say a little bit. It's similar, but in a different way. That makes sense.
same, but different.
Same, but different.
Yes.
Um, there's a lot of, I guess, in this, again, this word, the tactical world of jobs, and the umbrella, there's military, police inside of it. Um, Obviously, a lot of similarities to it. Because, me, Matt, Derek over here, we all have awards for doing different things. um, which has a nice, like, a significant story behind it. Obviously, everybody knows Matt's. Um, Looking at that, people do notice it. They see it. They say, "Oh," especially if you know what that award is. Um, they look at that like, "Oh, wow, this guy's has." There's obviously a story behind that one.
Yeah.
And there's some senior guys there, like, that are just on their dress uniforms, just stacked with
Yeah. They're
awards.
like North Korean generals.
Yeah, as a police officer, and being up as a police officer, if you're going to do this for 20, 30 years, whatever it is, especially if you take the time on patrol or in any really patrol or a unit like SWAT or any other, high risk unit, it's not a matter of uh if but when you're going to get into something to where you probably will get an award, whether it's a full unit award or a single award for something valorous you did. But yeah, people look at that, show some have some respect. And um I'm sure, just like in the military, you probably know more on the army side. Um, but you get some younger guys that they look at that, and they want to do the job for awards. And it gets kind of annoying.
I
I've had
hate it.
people come up. Yeah, I've had people come up with like, "Oh, I can't wait to get that." And they're pointing at your chest. I'm like, I never thought that. Like, it almost, don't want to wear it anymore. It's like, if you're looking for it, something bad's gonna happen. Like, you're not gonna earn it in a good way. So don't go seeking for these types of awards. Um, just do your job the best you can, and just be a good cop. And yeah, you probably will get an award, but don't expect it.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't make you a better person. All it is there's just a story behind it. That's all it is. It doesn't make you a better cop over another person.
Yeah, I know plenty of cops who have gone way longer than we have, and whether they have an award and they choose not to wear it or they don't have any, they have crazier stories than Austin and I probably will ever have. But
Yeah.
I look at it as like the award isn't the reason, it's the result, right? Like if I could go, and I mean eventually we will get to that point where, I won't wear my Purple Heart anymore. Like I'm wearing it because I just got it not too long ago, and it's like, hey, might as well wear it for a little bit. But there will get to be a point where I don't want that to define my career, even though unfortunately it probably will. But uh, it's a weird way of looking at it. Like I think nobody should go into anything looking to get a reward out of it, but it is nice when it happens, if that makes any sense.
No, it's kind of the same on our end. I had a leader who he was a sergeant major, which is kind of like our boss's boss, and he came in. And his uniform had nothing on it, but he's a 22-year military enlisted, and you're like, it's kind of weird, but he for 3 months he didn't have anything, and we kind of just talked to him. He told us stories, and he was very, very knowledgeable and helpful. After the 3 months, he put it all on, and then he had, I mean, a bunch of shit on his uniform, and you go, that's why. Like he didn't want
Yeah.
people judging him off of that, and I that's a testament, and I just love that people should judge off of the content of person, like their character, like how they act, how they perform, as opposed to I got this on my dress uniform. Yeah, that's awesome that you did that, but
Yeah.
like that's also yesterday's news. Like
Yeah.
just cuz you got shot, no offense, like that doesn't make you the stellar person or the stellar
Exactly.
law
Yeah.
enforcement officer, Like now you got to perform, I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's funny you
Well,
bring that up. I had a sergeant who's probably one of the better sergeants I've had in my entire career, but he had me run to his desk to grab some keys, and I opened the drawer. And the highest medal that we have in our department is called the Medal of Valor. It's like the top dog, like you did something insane. And I opened this guy's drawer, and he's got two of them sitting on a rack and just sitting in his desk. And I was like,
yeah.
what? And so I grabbed the keys and I go talk to him like, hey, I found something in your desk I want to talk about. And he was like confused. And then I like pointed to his name tag.
He's like, "Oh yeah, those."
He's like, "Oh yeah, those." And I'm like, yeah, what the hell? You should be wearing those." And he said, "I didn't do what I did on those days to wear those." He's like, "It's a reminder of what I did, but it doesn't define who I am." And I was like, "That is admirable as hell."
I love that.
Those are
Hell
the
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah, one of the best.
Um So let's dive into a little bit now. Austin, how did you kind of, or I'll start with Austin. Where did this podcast idea come from that you guys kind of dove into here?
Yeah, Matt kind of alluded to it earlier. We were, I don't know if it was in the locker room or like the brief room. It doesn't matter, but
Yeah, we're just hanging out.
we were just BSing, hanging out before or after shift. Um, and we were just kind of just swapping stories, venting, whatever you want to call it. And somebody was like, "Oh, this would be such a funny podcast. It'd be a good podcast to tell some of this type of stuff." We're like, "Oh yeah." And then it kind of got a little bit quiet. I started thinking, Matt started thinking. We're just like, "Man, we should start a podcast." And then I got to thinking about it more, and I couldn't stop thinking about it because I remember from when we said that, I think till when it actually happened was still months.
Oh yeah.
It was a long time, and I remember thinking, and I've told this story before. Before we got hired on as police officers, we were encouraged to do ride-alongs with our department just to see how being a cop is. I went and did a ride-along, and it it's a weird feeling. You when you're out of a patrol car, it seems like nothing bad is happening in the world. You look around, the birds are chirping, the
Yeah.
sun is setting, people are just walking around, getting gas, groceries, whatever it may be. As soon as you get into that patrol car and you look at your MDT and see all the calls holding, especially like in our area, you see all these violent things that people are calling in right now that are happening right now, and you're thinking the world is burning down.
Yeah.
But you step out of that car, nothing's happening. It's just peaceful, almost.
Almost. Yeah.
And I remember thinking this goes on every single day, and this is just our little area. We have an entire city, and then the county, the state, the whole nation that's going having these calls every single day. And if you do this job 20, 30 years, you're going to have stories. You're going to have these stories. We all trust me. I love them too. We all love the Navy SEAL stories. We all love the Special Forces stories, SWAT guys, whatever. They are great. They definitely are badasses in their own right. Like that, I will never be. And those are great stories. But to a point, I'm like, okay, I want, I want to hear, freaking the guy I work with, Tim over there, who's been on patrol for 20 years and has, has been great at his job because he's got some stories that are never going to get told.
Yeah.
And he's done some remarkable things, very, very selfless things. And I was like, I think we need to give them a platform. And, it's been a little bit difficult just because people like that are so humble.
Yes.
They're like, no, I just keep it to myself. It happened,
Yeah.
whatever. It can get a little difficult sometimes because, a lot of those guys that have those types of stories and have been on for so long are what the
Oh no. That's right.
It's a good thing, like after what 20 something episodes, I'm not as nervous anymore. I'm like, I can just pick it back up.
Yeah.
Try to make it sound authentic.
That's good. That's a good skill though.
Yeah. um the difficult part has been just trying to get those guys kind of to tell their stories because guys like that usually are just humble in their own way anyway. And putting a camera in front of their face and a microphone and be like, hey, we want to hear those stories. But I do believe they need to be heard. I know it's easier said than done, but this is stuff that's just happening every single day in our country, just down the street. Um, I've talked to people about some of the stories and calls that I've been on, and I'll just start talking. It'd be like a regular Tuesday afternoon. I'd be at work, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is what happened." They're like, "Bullshit, that didn't happen." I'm
Yeah.
like, and to me, I'm like, "What? No, yeah, that happened."
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, I'm like, that's just a typical call. And they're like, nah, I don't believe it. I'm like, dude, that happened just right there on the other side of town. It's not that. And they're like, so if I'm, experiencing that, like, how many first responders are in this, country, fire, EMS, police that have those stories and stories of heroism and, selflessness and just valorous acts that, they don't, the public doesn't get to hear because they're not special forces. They're not that Navy SEAL that everybody loves. And, there's a reason they love them. It's because of the people like that we get to live in a country like this. But, I want to highlight those common people, those everyday people in a good way. So that's my purpose behind the podcast. And yeah.
Yeah, Matt, I'm gonna jump into your side. Austin, that's similar to mine. In a broader sense, I guess, I find that in general, most people have these stories, especially if you can find them in all walks of life. They have these stories that you're like, that I just talked to a musician. He's doing blue collar music or bluegrass music, but he had a master's degree in microbiology.
Wow.
Oh wow,
Right, right. It's coming out soon. Check it out.
that's awesome.
No, that there's like so many people like that though, from military to law. I obviously levitate towards military and law enforcement, but all
Yeah.
these people, they've done so much with not having a long tab or a billion, Medal of Valors and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that they brag about. That those are the awesome stories.
Hmm.
Matt, do you attest to that? Are you in the same boat as that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we as humans, right, we're natural storytellers. Like before we had TV and radio and books and all that stuff, like the earliest man was just sitting around a fire just telling stories. And I think that that's ingrained in who we are. I think that humans are naturally drawn to, the amazing, the impossible, just the extraordinary stories that people have. And I think that it's something that, like Austin said, needs to be told, right? Um, it's a it's a very thankless profession at times, right? Military, police, fire, EMS. And not everything's pretty, right? Not everything's like you see on TV. Sometimes we wish it was, because ultimately that gets wrapped up in a little pretty package with a bow on top, and everybody seems to go home at the end. But sometimes you go on calls where not everyone goes home, and sometimes not everyone's okay after that. And I look at it as a form of like talk therapy as well, because I know when I was going through my incident trying to fix everything that's going on up here, when I would talk about it, I would feel better. And that's not the same for everybody, right? Everyone's different. But
Hmm.
I think if we can give people an outlet to tell their story and an outlet to express the way they feel about things, just to get it off their chest, if it makes one person feel better or makes one person, be like, what I did mattered, what I did helped somebody, what I did was what I had to do, then ultimately I think that we've done a good job in this profession. I always say, I would still be doing this even if the only person listening was my mom, right? I think this isn't about money. This isn't about fame. God knows I don't want to be famous. I mean,
Too
after my
late.
after my shooting, too many people on my department already know who I am, which I'm like, it's not exactly how I wanted that to happen. But uh, it's just, I think it's important to the people that came before us, the people who are going to come after us, and for the everyday person who may not see that insight into what a first responder life or job is like. I think that ultimately it's to bring people together, whether that's in the first responder community, fire, police, EMS, whatever, or whether that's first responders and the public. Hey, we're just people. We have emotions and we have problems and we make mistakes. We're not perfect, but trying to bridge that gap between humanity and first responding is just something that I think is so important, and I think that it's something that we actually have a chance of achieving.
Absolutely. I think I'm a history major, so I'm really big on old
Nice.
storytelling and this all this
Solid.
stuff. And yeah, it's not useful, but it's very interesting.
Oh,
And
it's incredibly useful. What are you talking about?
for this stuff, it is. It's not the job market. Anyway, um, I think it's so cool that there's this thing of prior to basically BC, people were storytellers, mostly vocal with their how traditions went on and everything, and everybody knew everything. Kind of got into writing things down. It became progressive, uh, radio, television, internet, and internet's the peak, right? Where it's like it's all mass
Yep.
listed bullshit, but it's too much. So now we're coming full circle in a hybrid mode of storytelling is the new history medium of keeping those stories alive of people. Because, like,
Absolutely.
me, for two reasons. One, I have an interview of my dad. So now my next generations and people after me have, his story in there, as well as, um, I, uh, it's just documenting everything going on in that timeline, like everything that happened, whether it's COVID or um, Trump getting elected. Like there's so many different factors getting explained through the common man instead of this bullshit jargon being spewed out by major media corporations. I truly
Yeah.
love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I love like us, right? Like obviously you guys are a little bigger than me, like pretty big, but
Maybe
you guys
that
are.
much.
Yes, not much.
Maybe, I don't know, but
Giving us too much credit.
but like you guys, the anti-hero guys, I like that too. That they're picking at history, and then there's Joe Rogan, Sean Wright, you name it, like all these different ones, um, are cataloging stories of people, and
Yeah.
it's the best.
That's a
Where
great way to put it. I
Yeah,
love that. That was
yeah.
great.
thanks. I don't like talking much on these. I like you guys talking. Where do where do you guys see yourselves? You know, you're getting a following, you're joined counterculture, which is great, and then where do you guys see yourselves going from here? What do you have planned?
Ultimately, I think our goal is just the same as it's always been, right? We obviously want to give these people a avenue to tell their stories, you know, whether they feel comfortable doing it in person or, you know, doing it with a little bit of anonymity. But I think that our goal ultimately is just to build up our audience as much as we can so that these stories get heard, right? There are heroes every day that walk among us that you would never know, right? The guy in the grocery store, the lady at the bank, you know, everybody has a story to tell. And I personally think it's a disservice to the service that these people did if we don't give them the opportunity to tell that story.
Yep.
Ultimately, I would love to have these stories get out to millions of people. Whether that's feasible or not, we'll see. But, you know, like I said, I'm going to keep doing this until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. I mean, just I know for a fact there's someone right now, whether you're a cop or a firefighter, EMS, a doctor, whatever it is, some kind of first responder, right now, today, did some kind of heroic act, and you're not going to hear about it.
Yep.
They did something to save a life. They did something to save their buddy's life, or whatever it may be. And I want to hear that because, man, we all know we got kicked in the nuts pretty hard during COVID with the George Floyd riots and stuff like that. First responders, like if you had a badge, no matter if you were a cop, firefighter, paramedic, whatever, they hated you. Um, and I want those. I want to bring it to where, hey man, we're just people that are just trying to do a good thing. I have never met and I'm not saying they're not out there. Obviously they are. I've never met a corrupt cop. I've never met a racist cop. In my 7 years, I've met some crappy cops, I guess, just because they, whatever it might be, but nothing to that extent. And for the most part, we are good people trying to do a good thing, and I want to try to avoid the phrase humanizing the badge, but in that way, kind of.
Oh, I've never even heard that. I like that.
Yeah,
That's
it's a buzz phrase going around. Just uh, kind of overused. I feel like
Yeah,
now,
I
but
feel as though there's a way to do it because, you know, I the way some people look up to first responders and military, right? I feel like that's the way I look up to the military. Like these guys are out doing these crazy things, going to far off lands, but it seems almost superhuman, right? It doesn't seem common to me, at least, right? Somebody who wasn't in that field.
yeah,
But then when
yeah.
people say that to me about first responding, I'm like, no, dude, I'm just a normal guy, man. I have a slight amount of power and I carry a gun. Like that's really it. But I think that it's important because I think I speak for Austin and I when I say we're trying to bring some form of positivity to this increasingly negative world that we see. I feel like everything we look at is so negative, so detrimental, and it just makes people miserable, right? I don't watch the news anymore because there's nothing good ever said.
yeah,
It's always bad this, bad that. This guy did this bad thing. This girl did this. And it's just like, I would love a little positivity, you know? I would love to hear a story about somebody who helped somebody and made that person's day better, or somebody who had to make a sacrifice of themselves to be able to, you know, preserve a life or preserve, you know, a city or whatever. Just something more than what we're getting in the mainstream news. And it's something I feel is so important because if all you do is focus on the negativity, you're going to be a very negative person.
yeah,
I was just telling someone, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but we were at a one of those I don't know if you guys have those, but it's ceremony of changing of our first sergeant for one of the companies, and it's this big ceremony where there's a lot of people standing around, and they always play the national anthem and the army song and all this stuff, and
yeah.
it's whatever, and people give speeches. But I heard obviously the national anthem always plays to start the ceremony, and I looked over at my buddy who is a like-minded individual, and I was like, the national anthem has to be the greatest song ever. And I'm like,
I agree.
it has to be the greatest national anthem ever. But I was always like, to the point, I think it's so much more fun to have fun with it and pump stuff up and hear the positivity over just constant complaints and bickering of everything going on. Like,
Yeah.
I want to hear, I want to hear the stories of, getting through depression, getting through suicidal attempts, but I also, because I've had those on here, but I also want to hear how you overcame that and where you came to now, because that's what gets people through the day, and that's what gets everyone going.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
100%.
I think too, and I don't know if it's because of the rise of social media and like technology, but I feel like when I was a kid, things were a lot happier. I feel like and maybe that's just me looking back through nostalgic glasses or whatever, but
Because we didn't have social media.
I honestly think that social media has become more of a detriment than people realize, solely for the fact of I feel like people were happier 20 years ago. When I was a kid and we didn't have Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all these things, we're out running around playing with our friends. I mean, you know, the start of it, what, like the Super Nintendo or the N64 or something like that, I feel like were some of my favorite memories that I have ever had. And I don't know whether or not it's because of social media or because of the internet or because of whatever, but I think that if we can just go back to a little bit of humanity, we would be a much happier civilization and a much happier people.
Yeah, if everybody just like on their weekends disappeared in the mountains like I did and just it'd be so
Commune
much
with
That's
happier.
nature.
right.
Yeah.
Ground yourself to earth, go kill an
Yes.
animal, go fish, do something.
No, and even you guys probably can feel this a little bit. Um, this the podcast part, right, is my favorite part. I love talking to people. I love hearing about you guys. What I don't love is having to post on 5 different things to get your,
Yeah.
but you have to get your voice
Holy
across.
crap.
Yeah.
You're
But
telling me, man.
if
Gee.
I could get rid of that aspect and somehow grow, I would. I would
It's
never post
exhausting.
anything, but you have
It's
to.
mentally
Like,
exhausting, dude.
it's awful, and you're trying to be like artistic with it and stuff, and I'm like, no, no, no. I just want to talk to people. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
So you just have to play the game though. I hate that you have to play that game. And then I was telling my wife today, I'm like, I need to hire some kid who's good at this and loves it anyway. I'm like, hey, I need you to control the 5 places I gotta post this on and make a cool video. Run it by me and then post it. But yeah, I don't have that kind of money yet.
Yeah. One
Yeah,
day, not today.
that's right. I'm taking digital media classes, just to digital marketing, just to figure this thing out. Like, I don't even. I'm yeah. I get it
Yeah.
100%.
It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
mess. Yeah.
Guys, like, I loved hearing about it. I loved hearing where you came from. I love where Tone Alert's going. I think it's gonna get a lot bigger than you realize.
Thank
It's a
you.
We
solid
appreciate that.
endeavor. Yeah. Is there anything you guys want to address before we get off here?
Um,
I'll say it like this, guys. If you had, a younger, 21-year-old that is about to join the Air Force or join the law enforcement, what would you say to him?
um, go into it for the right reasons. I know I'm probably gonna say what a million other people say, but there's a reason why so many people say it.
Yeah.
Go into it with the right reasons. Um, I would advise to me, I mean, if you want to go in the military, do it. It's going to be a blast. It's going to suck too. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be, how did somebody say it to me once? It's the best worst experience of your life. And you're going to come out the other end just remember nothing but the good times, and it's going to shape you in a good way. And it's going to prepare you if you want to become a cop one day. Um, I know I have my personal opinions about 21-year-olds being cops, but get some life experience. If you do want to be a cop, do it for the right reasons as well. Be a good person if you're going to be a cop. Um, if you think you're going to go be a cop because you want to go flex your badge on people, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. Um, and I'm going to repeat this. I don't know if I've coined it. I don't know. I feel like I made it up, but if I did, then it's mine. I coined it. Go and be a cop. Go find the right department that's going to let you be proactive and it's going to have your back and gives you training. If they're not going to do any of that, then don't go. Don't get hired with them. We're very blessed with our department. And if you have that department, go and follow your law, follow policy, be a morally and ethically good person, and have some common sense. And you're going to have a great law enforcement career
Yeah.
as long as you have that. Also have that department that's going to provide continual training to better yourself as a police officer. And I'm not talking about 4 hours a year. I'm talking about continual training. There are departments out there that will do that. So just find those ones, and you're gonna have a blast, and you're gonna have a long, healthy career. Be a good person overall.
Yeah, I would say mine is just don't forget where you come from, right? We all strive to be bigger and better than ourselves, but when you forget where you came from and you forget the people that helped get you there, you end up being more of a detriment than a benefit. I tell people all the time, like, remember your family, remember your friends. This job is great. There's tons of money to be made. There's tons of overtime to do. There's tons of different assignments you can be a part of. But the second you cash out and retire, this department, any department, forgets all about you, right?
Yeah.
They forget about the crazy shootings you investigated. They forget about the pursuits. They forget about the times you help people. You're a number. But while they forget about everything you did in the past 20, 30 years, your kids are never going to forget when you weren't there at their baseball game where they won that trophy,
100%.
or they're not going to
That's
forget
right.
when you missed the school play, or they're not going to remember when you were there at the class party when they were in second grade. Those things matter. And this job is great, and it's something I think is the best decision I could have ever made for myself. But I'll be damned if I let this job take me away from my family and missing those critical moments. I
Yep.
think that we need to start focusing on not living to work, but working so that we can live. And I think that if you remember those two things, then you're going to have a good life.
Family first.
Yeah, that's great advice to all. If there's a kid listening, that's the way to go. That is it. Um, I can't thank you guys enough for coming on here and sharing everything with
Thank
us.
you.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah,
man.
we're
Yeah,
honored.
we
Thank
always
you.
like being the guest. This is kind of new for us. This is only like our third time being
Yeah,
the guest. It's
it's
kind of
fun.
Oh,
fun. I like
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to be part of that. So, thank you guys again. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.